Hey there, and welcome to the month of October 2020. Now, way back at the start of 2019, when I was researching the year ahead, I was like, wow, October 2020 is definitely its own month. And it certainly is a month that really highlights or encapsulates a lot of what 2020 is about. So, there are some same, but different elements to this month. And the same is that we are entering the month under the intense energies of Mars retrograde squaring Saturn. So this is the second of those aspects. The first was at the end of August, where Mars was direct and Saturn was retrograde. And now they've reversed and are hitting that second square at 25 degrees of Aries and Capricorn. So this is going to be adding, the flavor of perhaps the idea of having to make adjustments between what you want for the long term versus what is available right now here in the present. It might be some friction or tension around action and the inability to take action, or maybe you've got all the energy in the world and nowhere to channel it, and then that is causing the tension and frustration. So particularly if you're in positions of, COVID lockdowns or, for example, you might have all the ideas and all the energy, but nowhere to really, channel that, which can be, as I said, frustrating or, feeling heavy, limiting, restrictive, what have you. But that is quite a signature theme of Mars retrogrades anyway, where we can have this extreme like Energizer Bunny vibe or, a flat battery vibe and nothing in between. So October, again, is going to be a month where we really need to think about, okay, what are my most immediate things that I can deal with? What can I control? What may I need to kind of make adjustments around so I can satisfy what needs to happen now versus what's also going to help me for the long term. So those themes are not going anywhere this month. But what is quite different is we start the month the same way we're going to end the month, and those are with full moons. So we've got the first full moon. I'm just getting my screen up now for you. We've got the first full moon in Aries. So this is definitely going to highlight, amplify the theme of Mars in Aries. So it's definitely going to, put a big spotlight on the themes of frustration, tension, and the like. Normally, when I see a full moon in Aries, I think independence, I think autonomy, I think of the idea of, going it alone so I can go faster than what I would if I had to carry someone along with me. So it's the whole the whole Aries Libra vibe. So I often think when I see these two signs in play with each other is I could go faster alone, but further together. But with this particular lunation, Mars is the ruler of it, is in a very, it's in a predicament. It's retrograde, it's square Saturn, it's going to then also square Jupiter and Pluto this month. So it's certainly, not a happy Mars from that perspective. So this lunation is going to really, just as I said, spotlight those Mars retrograde themes. So if you're not sure what they are for you by now, you're certainly going to know about it in this lunation, and also with the couple of days succeeding it. So as the moon then continues on through through Aries, it is then going to actually conjoin Mars, and then it will also square the Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn vibe as well. So there are going to be a very couple of itchy, scratchy days for the moon where, it's not just about the lunation itself, but also what that moon is going to be interacting with. And coupled with that, we've got this feisty moon in Aries that's a bit spicy. It's, just wants to do its thing. It wants to, decide and do. And then, of course, as it continues on through It's going to interact with the limiting and frustrating elements of the cardinal crunch. And then it's going to move into Taurus and then, of course, connect with Uranus. So that's going to add another level of volatility, of irritability, of tension, of, wanting to do things, maybe outside of the status quo somewhat. So this is going to be, anything but comfortable as far as the lunation is concerned, and of course in the following days after that. So this is going to be a bit of a rough start to the month of October, but it's certainly going to shake things up enough that at least we're going to know what we're dealing with as we proceed. So then the next notable influence is the sign shift from Venus, where she then moves into the sign of Virgo. So Virgo is not the happiest place for Venus. She is, in her detriment, in her fall there, I should say, because she is opposite the sign that she is exalted in, which is Pisces. So this isn't a moral judgment for Venus. It's simply she can't do the Venusian things well in the sign of Virgo. So Venus is about love and about beauty and harmony and the arts and everything about joy and pleasure. Now, Mercury, or Virgo, is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury wants to think about things. It's concerned with data and, the practical component of Virgo, because it's Earth, wants things that are, wants to sort of disseminate and pull apart the data and improve upon or make better. So it's not a warts and all type of Venus. It's like, I want to fix things, I want to make things better, and I want to make improvements. So it is a shift from the big hug or the cuddle that Venus naturally wants to give. So how this can work out on a more positive element is that love, relationships, togetherness, teamwork, and collaboration can take on a more practical or a tactile component to it. So this might, naturally, being Mercury ruled, take on the idea of communication. What do I need in a relationship or in a deal or an agreement that is going to work, and being open about that or communicating that. This is what I practically need in a situation. So this is about perhaps discussing or learning for yourself or learning about your partner, or a combination of the two, what your love language is. And so this can be, help us iron out those nitty gritties or the more itchy scratchy parts of relationships. Rather than nitpicking or fault finding, we can, okay, let's discuss, what is it that I actually need, or what gestures of love do I need from you? And that might be acts of service or doing things for your other person, as opposed to these over-the-top gestures of affection, which is suggested by Venus in Leo. So Venus will be in Virgo till around the 27th and then the 28th if you are in Australia. So, and we also see Mercury now in Scorpio, which is how it started the month. And it will continue on and make a opposition to Uranus. Now, Uranus is, this is going to be an ongoing aspect for the month of October. So this is the first iteration of this aspect, and we'll get a second one once Mercury is retrograde, and that will happen on the 13th of the month. So maybe it's the 12th in the USA, Canada region, and the 13th here in Australia. So this is going to really be an energy that's going to really play out for the month. We'll also get the third aspect between these two planets in November. So what can we expect from these two planets forming an opposition? I, generally speaking, really do like Mercury Uranus aspects because they can be these brainwave aspects, these light bulb moments, these fresh ideas that may, at times come as a bit of a shock or a surprise, but can really help us see perhaps a new perspective. The opposition to me speaks very much about the what if I thought about something else on the other side, or what if I think about things how they could be as opposed to how they are here in the now. So we've got Mercury at this point in time, sort of the 6th, 7th of October. This aspect will actually perfect on the 7th and then the 8th, the first time. This might be Mercury in Scorpio is very much about probing, it's investigative, it is operating from a hunch. Mercury or Scorpio as a sign is very good at the subliminal messages and the things that are unspoken or unsaid, and can really read those signs. And so as Mercury now is moving exceptionally slow and preparing to retrograde in about 5 days from the first aspect, it might be, I need to follow that hunch, or I need to follow that feeling, or follow that instinct. And then it hits Uranus. And then Uranus too is another planet that's very instinctual. It is a planet that is, the idea of action and reaction can happen very quickly, and often doesn't think about it too much before it happens. And so you might be digging or probing or investigating for more information, going over old territory, following a feeling or a hunch, and then boom, something happens, or something gets revealed to you. Now that might be, I got it. I know exactly what that was all about. Or it might be, oh dear, what am I going to do with this new insight or this new information? So this could be like, if we look at what Mercury in Scorpio is about, it's like that deep dive. So this is about, deep diving, investigating. It's like, the following, like I watched recently Pikachu Pet Detective, the Pokemon movie, and it was sort of like, I feel it in my jellies. And so this is going to be a period of time, we would normally say I feel it in my waters, but Pikachu says in my jellies. And so this is going to be a period of time where if you feel something, and even if it doesn't make practical or logical sense, that you can then, go forward with that and, follow it and see where it takes you. And it may take you on a path that you have to go over a few times, but it might also help you get that insight or revelation or that fresh news that you need. Of course, Mercury retrograde is still going to bring up some snafus. Logistical issues are probably going to be quite obvious at the time. So you might have someone contact you around this time and say, hey, let's do this thing. By the time Mercury stations at 11th degrees of Scorpio and then comes back to hit Uranus again, which happens on the 19th and 20th, then that's where you really hit those snafus and have to kind of go back over things. So that's going to really flavor the month of October, is this surprise element. There's already a drama filled month being bookended by 2 lunations, and then by mid-month, 13th of October, 13th through to the 19th, give or take, we've got, well, actually 7th, 8th through till like the 19th, 20th is when that thick of Mercury Uranus and Mercury retrograde is really, really intense. So there's this idea around contracts, conversations, logistics, money, data, news, that they're, nothing is going to be as it seems. And it's almost like Uranus is the earthquake that's going to kind of unearth all of the hidden things. So it could be quite revelatory on the personal and on the collective as well. So also something that happens on the 13th, which is going to really light up the sky, is that the Sun and Mars form their once in every 2-year opposition. So what this highlights is the halfway point between the Mars retrograde cycle. So if you're at this point of Mars retrograde and thinking, okay, well, I'm not really sure what it's about for me, nothing really much has changed or is different, this should spotlight it for you. Now, on the idea of investigation, of, feeling things in your jellies, having the ruler of Mercury retrograde, so Mercury in Scorpio, is ruled by Mars, and it's also retrograde. So it's got very, very little support from its ruler, practically none, because its ruler is retrograde. It's hard up against all of this Capricorn stuff. And also too, it's doesn't have a sign-based aspect. Mars doesn't communicate with Mercury, and Mercury doesn't communicate with Mars. So Mercury retrograde is looking to Mars for support and not getting any. It's in aversion. They don't make an aspect. So it's like a Wi-Fi signal that you just can't get. And so this is what you might experience on this day, or leading up to it, is that the sun then comes and spotlights and shines the solar system's brightest light right on Mars. So you might see something that you have been feeling in your jellies, or you might feel something or know what to do with it. You've got this information now, this revelation, this sudden surprise, and it's like, oop, there it is. What am I going to do about it or with it? So an analogy for this would be like a diver that goes on a deep dive to get some type of treasure or some, to unearth something. And it gets to the bottom of the ocean, picks up the treasure and, yep, I've got it. Finally, like it's here, it's in my hand, I've got the thing. But then there's also this, from the bottom of the ocean, now you have to make that ascent back up to the surface. And a lot can happen between, like the ground zero of the bottom of the ocean and then getting back up to the surface. So, you're not there yet. So if you are one of those people that it's like, are we there yet as far as Mars retrograde is concerned? Then no, we're not. We're halfway there. So now we're on the rise, if you like, but there's still a long way to go. And how this can manifest in a literal sense is that while you may not have the ability to take action, while you may not have the ability to make the progress that you want at this point in time, at least you might know the steps to take or what you have to do. You're just waiting for the right opportunity to do so. So, you might get like that proverbial radio signal from the boat above going, there's sharks in the water, just hold steady until they've swum past you, or the weather's changing. So you just got to maybe like hold on for a little bit longer, because, Mars is still just separating from that square to Pluto too. So there is this sense of so much being unearthed or revealed in sudden or shocking ways around that time. So moving forward in the month, there's so much going on, and I'm certainly not going to be able to cover it all in this sort of relatively quick YouTube video, but we've got quite a nice, well, look, I'm not going to say it's a nice lunation. It's nice because it's Libra, but it's also got a few challenges, but gifts associated with it. So I'm going to go through that with you now. The new moon in Libra is looking to Venus, which, as we've explained, is not a happy Venus. So not a lot of support from its ruler. The ruler is about to oppose Neptune. So this has got an idea here of maybe deception, or maybe compassion, or the idea of let's lean into or look towards what's possible, even if it's maybe not practical or tangible yet. There's this idea of Venus wanting, being lured into something, or wanting to be connected to something, maybe in a relationship situation, what's possible for us. Now, what's possible, what's practical and real don't always align. This is an aspect, he's got potential or she's got potential, but it's not going to be practical. So this might be help you lean into a situation that you might need to have a little bit of rose-colored glasses about something, or maybe need to let down your guard around something, or maybe need to kind of see things from a more open or place of possibility. That being said, though, I would probably be a little bit nervous to go too far down that road because of what's happening to this lunation. So technically it's besieged by two planets. It's stuck between the rock and the hard place, which is Saturn and Pluto. So these Libran ideals of negotiation, of diplomacy and harmony and peace, and ultimately togetherness, it might take a little bit of, negotiation, or oops, sorry, not that one. It might take a little bit of hard work or confronting honesty or having to make a lot of adjustments to make that dream work. So, ultimately Libra is teamwork makes the dream work, but it might be, how much work are you prepared to do for that? So that might be the realization for some people around this lunation. In addition to that, there's also, another little bit of ray of light or a bit of hope, and that is that this lunation is right there with a fixed star called Spica, and she's at about 24 degrees of Libra. Now, Spica is a very feminine archetype. She's protective, she's supportive, she's very benefic. And she doesn't always give you everything that you might want, but she'll definitely give you everything that you need. So that's a little bit of a boost around this lunation. Of course, that may also mean that the diplomacy or the negotiations, they may not work how you wanted or how you hoped, or the result may not be, the best, but it might be what you need as opposed to what you wanted. So it's a bit of a, Libra, even Steven kind of situation with that lunation. So it's not great, it's not good, and it's not bad either. So it is a little bit neutral, but definitely from an aspectual perspective, overall a very challenged moon lunation there. So the next big event is we've got a very quick, brief influence with the two benefics combining via trine. So that is Venus in Virgo and Jupiter in Capricorn. So both of these planets are our most beneficial, helpful, supportive influences. Though they are in signs that they can't give us our best or their best, they're trying, okay? So there is this idea here around the 19th in all time zones that we might get a little bit of support or help or a little bit of a ray of light or a lift or an inspiring level of support through the two benefic planets. So I think it may be helpful to kind of like lean into that where you can. If there is something you might want to elect or start, it's not a great period of time, but this is kind of like a good aspect amongst a month that it's pretty challenging. So it's slim pickings right now. So taking what you can also be helpful. Not saying that this is a chart per se that I would use for an election, but if you just sort of randomly want to maybe do something that isn't particularly time specific, but you might also notice that, you might get a lovely phone call from a friend, or someone loans you some money, or a little breakthrough, or a little bit of sugar on top on a rather salty month. So that's just something that is nice to look forward to. Then on the 22nd, 23rd, if you're in Australia, the sun will enter Scorpio. So that will herald a new season. And that might actually come as a little bit of a relief, because in the last part of the month, this is when the sun is going to be squaring all of those Capricorn planets. So it's going to be pretty crispy around that time. So sort of like around, let's just have a look at that there. When the sun moves in aspect to, Jupiter won't be so bad, but once it kind of gets to, the 15th through to you know, about the 18th, 19th, that they're going to be some pretty challenging days. And the majority of that, the moon will be in Scorpio, there with Mercury retrograde. So that's going to be, you know, I would bookmark that period of time as, you know, a little bit tricky or challenging. And then maybe the reward after that is the fact that then once the sun is cleared of Saturn, which is the last aspect it'll make against the Capricorn party, we'll have the moon in Sag, which is just a little bit more helpful than Scorpio, for instance. And then, of course, we'll have that lovely Jupiter-Venus influence. So that's kind of like maybe a little bit of sugar on top, or maybe the reward for hard work, or, you know, just that little bit of a relief, perhaps. Okay, so as I said, there's so much going on this month. I can't cover it all, but one thing I wanted to point out, two more things, is firstly, we've got some sign changes. So on, let me just show you here. So on the 27th, that's the 28th in Australia, we will have, firstly, Mercury will, you know, just shift back into Libra. So I'm just going to animate that a little bit more so you can sort of see that. I know that is a bit probably, oops, wrong way. Get Mercury back this way into Libra. It's moving very slowly because it's retrograde. So there we go. We've got Mercury back into Libra. And then, of course, we will have Venus in Libra. So we've got Mercury, even though it's retrograde, and we've got Venus in Libra. So that happens the 27th in the US time zones and the 28th here in Australia. So we've got the idea of, you know, maybe not under the best circumstances, but communication, collaboration, and connection, teamwork, all of those ideas, perhaps what we want and the way we're expressing ourselves are perhaps coming a little bit. They're not coming together, but they're sharing space. So again, going over old territory, perhaps, because Mercury's already been in this part of the sky, and Venus is coming along. And, you know, at least now Mercury, even though it is, you know, getting towards, you know, it's within range of this part of the sky, at least now has a ruler that can do something for it. So the idea of negotiations, of getting back some fairness or balance, or perhaps even a little bit more smoothness with logistical matters is more possible now, thank you to Venus in Libra and Mercury also moving into Libra, and they are, you know, it's better than having Mercury in Scorpio with Mars unable to help it. So at least now it's got a little bit of a leg up, a little bit of help and support, which is wonderful for Mercury. So that's going to be a little bit more forgiving. And then at the very end of the month, now this actually happens on the 1st of November here in Australia, technically speaking, and maybe even, let me just double check my notes here. We've got, oh no, so it does happen in all time zones in the US on the, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, no, I'm right. So just had to check my data now, thinking about all that Mercury retrograde stuff. So we are going to move into the final lunation of the month. So it's a busy month from a lunation perspective. And what happens is we have the full moon in Taurus, and it's conjoined Uranus, like totally conjoined Uranus. It's a very, very tight lunation, this one. I'm just going to fast forward that right up into the minutes so you can see it for exactly what it is. Okay, so what we've got about 3 minutes applying to Uranus, so it does not get much tighter than that. So we've got, you know, pretty rough lunations this month, you know, technically speaking, but this may also help us to maybe shift up something that's stagnant or stuck. You know, the full moon in Taurus does bring a stable and grounded influence that might also remind you of the need to slow down. But again, that idea of some type of cosmic plot twist or a surprise or something changing or unpredictable there may kind of, disrupt your serenity, if you like. If you're burning the candle at both ends, Uranus can be very adrenally exhausted. This might kind of, help you to realize, hey, I can't keep on going at the rate that I'm going. I don't want to keep on going at the rate that I'm going. If you've just been kind of like grinding through being that wind up soldier, this might be the lunation that just goes, okay, enough. I need to change things up. I need to switch some things up to give me that space or that peace or that calm. So full moons are always more emotional. They're always more dramatic. So there is going to be a volatile vibe to the moon. There is going to be perhaps some ruffled feathers. There's going to be some irritability. So again, the idea of introducing some calm or peace into your world around this full moon, this surprise lunation on Halloween. It could be a trick, it could be a treat, who knows. Anyway, that is your brief wrap up for the month of October. There's so much going on. Of course, all of those more detailed videos are in the for members of the Golden Circle. And if you would like to learn more about that, there are links in the description below. So I'll enjoy catching you in the next video. And until then, enjoy your crunchy October month. All right, bye for now.